Alright, so boom, turn me up, don't turn me down. We back at it with another video today. We got the biggest frauds of the NHL playoffs, the Carolina Hurricanes. 0-14 in the East Finals? Really? Yo, I seen one of y'all in the comments say this. I had to do my research. I popped up on YouTube, and this video right here, I seen this. So, link in the description to the original video. Y'all want to check it out without my reaction. And let's get it.
0-14. This is the number of consecutive games that the Carolina Hurricanes have lost through their Eastern Conference Finals appearances, with the last 6 defeats coming from the Florida Panthers. Dating back to 2009, the Canes have been swept by the Penguins, Bruins, Panthers, and now potentially...
Yo, since 2009?
The Panthers again. And one of the more famous quotes from Rod Brindamore saying that last year wasn't a sweep has become even more interesting this year, especially with how the Panthers have dominated the Canes on their home ice. But in all seriousness, the Hurricanes in the ECF is way past starting to become a problem. It's now reached a point of both embarrassment and confusion. Game 1, Carolina had almost double the shots of the Panthers with 78 compared to their 46 and still lost that game. But in Game 2, they completely changed their game plan, with chance of shoot the puck breaking out because they just couldn't get anything on the net. With frustration boiling over for Canes fans and now another potential sweep on the line, let's break down the first 2 games of this series to see if we can uncover the reasoning behind Carolina's lack.
And Game 4 is literally going to happen. I'm recording this video game day, 1 o'clock. I think the game start. When the game start, I don't even know. In like 6-7 hours, I think. But yeah, y'all time might be coming to an end later on tonight.
Of success past the second round of the playoffs. The formula for the Carolina Hurricanes through the playoffs is actually quite simple. They apply an aggressive forecheck, dump the puck in deep, maintain possession in their opponent's offensive end to wear down the defense. They then shoot a ton of pucks on net and either get a goal off of that or try to clean things up, whether that's off a loose puck or a rebound. And this honestly was a good approach for most of the playoffs, but when you're playing against the Florida Panthers team that is this deep defensively, you have to make some adjustments, and so far it doesn't seem like the Hurricanes have been capable of doing that. Now, Game 1, you could say that the Hurricanes deserved better against the Panthers. They stuck to their game plan, but they met a hot goalie in Bobrovsky who just kept them at arm's length. Game 2, however, you can't make that same claim. From the moment both teams took the ice and the puck was dropped, the Panthers just played with more edge, speed, and heart, applying constant pressure to Carolina's defense and scoring fast and early to put them out of reach, essentially using their own game plan against them. In fact, in Game 2, Carolina's offensive efforts were just flat out embarrassing. Through the first 32 minutes of the game, the Hurricanes had only 5 shots. Through 40 minutes, they had 7. And through the whole 60 minutes, they had 17 total shots on net. Again, this is a team that thrives on putting pucks on net, and the Panthers have completely taken that away from them. But there's also another important stat that the Hurricanes were the best in the league at this postseason that is also completely flipped on its head, and that's their penalty kill. Through round 1, the Hurricanes didn't allow a single
100% penalty kill through the first 6 playoff games. Yo, I'm really starting to see something right here, man. I think it's a curse going on in the NHL. It's a long, very long, curse for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Look like it's a curse for the Carolina Hurricanes in the East Finals. I feel like a lot of these NHL teams is cursed, man. For what, I don't know.
Goal on the power play against New Jersey, maintaining what was a perfect penalty kill through their first 5 postseason games. Round 2 against a Washington team that thrived on the man advantage as well was a similar story. They allowed 2 power play goals through their first 2 series and killed 28 out of 30 penalties, and even had a shorthanded goal in that stretch. Their penalty kill legitimately became their identity. Through 2 games against the Panthers now, the Canes have already allowed 4 power play goals. That's double the amount they allowed through 10 games and 2 different series against 2 different opponents. That to me is a crazy statistic in Florida's favor. Now again, it seems like Florida completely understands Carolina's game plan and in fact continues to use it against them, only this time they're doing it much better than Carolina can, applying an aggressive forecheck, causing Carolina to be on their heels, and in turn forcing them to take more penalties, which has given Florida more power play opportunities. And with the amount of depth and amazing, talented players that Florida has on this team, they're more likely to score power play goals than their former opponents like Washington and Montreal, who just don't have the same depth as Florida. And that's where this problem has arisen for the Carolina Hurricanes. They are forcing themselves into bad positions against an experienced team that knows how to score when given the opportunity. The next notable thing for Carolina through the first 2 games is the drop-off in play by Freddie Andersen. Andersen is now allowed back-to-back 5-goal games against the Panthers, and that stretch in the first period might have been his worst of the playoffs. Andersen has always been a question mark with his injuries. His inability to stay healthy has been the biggest blemish on his career, and a massive reason why most of the hockey world picks against the Carolina Hurricanes the deeper they go into the playoffs. This time around, though, we're experiencing something kind of unfamiliar from Andersen, and that's his play just being bad, not really his injuries being a factor. Through rounds 1 and 2, Andersen led every goalie in both save percentage and goals against average, with a .937 save percentage and a 1.38 goals against average. These were historic numbers set to make Andersen not only the most valuable player of the playoffs, but potentially one of the greatest playoff goalie performances that we have ever seen in this league. However, since starting this series against the Panthers, Andersen's story has completely flipped upside down. In the first 2 games, he's averaged a .750 save percentage and a 6.16 goals against average.
6.16 goal. 1.38. It went up by like 5. His save percentage went down to 750 when it was 937 in round 1 and 2. Oh yeah, Florida Panthers is kryptonite or something.
A .750 save percentage and a 6.16 goals against average, knocking his playoff numbers all the way down to a .907 save percentage and a 2.02 goals against average, which isn't exactly breaking any records compared to what he was putting up before. You guys have said in the past that I'm an avid goalie defender, but how can you not defend Andersen in this situation? You don't go from putting up historic numbers like a week ago to then being a beer league goalie. That just doesn't happen.
That's crazy.
So in my eyes, obviously the guys in front of him are just not doing enough and putting him in very poor positions, which has caused him to have these terrible numbers compared to what he had in rounds 1 and 2. I think there's an obvious, clear discrepancy between these two teams. It's not their defense, it's not their goaltending. To me, it's their forward group. Because the forward group just can't get in on the forecheck and they can't get to their spots, and the Cats' defense is just so smothering, this causes the defense to have to play in their own end more, which causes more shots on goal against Freddie Andersen, and more importantly, it wears down the defense and causes them to give up more high-danger chances to the Panthers. Now, the Panthers have 4 incredibly talented forward lines, where the Canes, I think they have just about 2, based on how their roster looks right now, and even that might be a stretch with Aho, Jarvis, and Svechnikov only combining for 1 goal in 2 games played so far.
So who's the best forward in with the Hurricanes?
Based on how their roster looks right now, and even that might be a stretch with Aho, Jarvis, and Svechnikov only combining for 1 goal in 2 games played so far. Again, these are games at home, so the production should be much higher, not only for your top players, but for your role players as well, and that just hasn't happened
them two
yet.
Are top players.
But to this point, I think I've said all I need to about the Carolina Hurricanes. I think we need to actually flip over to the other side to give the Florida Panthers their flowers for how they've come out in this series. Through their playoff run, not just this series, the Panthers have done an amazing job of taking team star players out of the equation. Whether that be Kucherov in round 1, Matthews and Marner in round 2, or so far in this series, Svechnikov and Aho. The Panthers have this ability to take away space, forcing players into spots that just don't match their play style. And if there aren't others who can step up and take away some of this pressure, then the result is you just don't get any offense. And for the Canes, this is exactly what's happening. But the Panthers are not all just gimmicks. They have incredibly talented players, and mind you, very responsible players like Sasha Barkov and Sam Reinhart, who, in my eyes, are two of the best two-way forwards in the game. And this is kind of the big problem with Carolina. They understood that they lacked forwards, and they really went out and tried to get a talented player in Rantanen, but it just didn't work out. So it's hard to really blame Carolina in this situation because they did all they could, but there's just nothing left for them to show for it, and you got to just kind of feel bad for them in the end. So big question going forward. Are the Carolina Hurricanes done, or can they come back in this series? Well, never say never, but it's going to be important for Carolina to understand that they have to get back to their game plan because that's what brought them success through the regular season and the first 2 rounds. But don't be silly and just bring out that exact same style of hockey. You have to make a few adjustments. What I mean by that is they have to find a way to get into the offensive zone more efficiently and stay there long enough to wear down Florida's defensemen. Alleviating some of that pressure from your goalie and your back end, it's going to allow you to not play this fatigued brand of hockey and also prevent Florida from going on these onslaughts. The other thing you have to do is get your stars going, Aho and Svechnikov specifically, because without them having heroic performances on the road, this team,
stars,
and Svechnikov specifically, because without them having to is get your stars going, Aho and Svechnikov specifically, because without them having heroic performances on the road, this team will have no chance of getting back in this series. I understand you don't have that guy in Rantanen that you wanted, but you do have some gamers, and I think this is going to be the moment for them to step up with these next 2 very important games. But this is it for the Carolina Hurricanes. Game 3 is not only going to be a defining moment for this season and playoff run, but also for the Canes' future. If they get swept or even lose in 5, I think we're going to
we're already seeing Game 3, and they lost. They're down 3-0.
Have some serious conversations about not only this roster, but their coaching and their front office, and that's not something that any of these guys deserve. But this is going to be my question for the video. Do you think that this series and this general playoff run is more about the Florida Panthers' dominance or the Carolina Hurricanes' lack of star power? And
I think, honestly, if I had to say my opinion, I'll say it's probably their lack of star power for real. Because, I mean, they was doing their thing round 1, round 2. They was looking like a very good matchup to whoever they was going to play against in the East Finals. So, I'll say that. But then again, like he said, you got to give your flowers to the Florida Panthers and all that. They doing their thing. They're the reigning, defending Stanley Cup champions of the world. So, you got to give the champions they prop. And looking like they trying to go back-to-back. You feel me? They just need one more win to go to the finals. So, yeah, but comment down below. What's your thoughts in the Carolina Hurricanes? Do y'all feel like it's just them with a lack of star power on the team and all that? Or do y'all feel like it's just the Florida Panthers just dominating on how they are, man? But hopefully I enjoy the reaction, and I'm going to catch y'all in the next one, man.